You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 47. I can't believe I've done so many episodes. I always say that to myself, but I'm almost at 50, and that's just crazy, isn't it? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's just me today, and I thought I would give you a little bit of an insight into the feelings that I've been thinking recently and just trusting this process, because I don't know if you are listening in real time. We are currently going through the Eclipse portal and it is heavy AF. Like, I've spoke to so many people and they have been going through their own kinds of shadow stuff. So, as always, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into the astrology and make it make sense into real life experiences. So, for example, well, at the moment, astrologically, we have the solar eclipse coming up. So, we had the lunar eclipse that was a couple of weeks ago. The solar eclipse is currently on the Monday coming. So, I'm going to release the podcast. It's the next day. And or when you listen, it was the 8th of April. So that's full moon solar eclipse. And that is really the ending of complete cycles and the birth of a new. So I keep saying the end of cycles a lot. There's been lots of little cycles we should have been ending each time. If you haven't ended the cycles that don't serve you, the universe will intervene. Now, you have a choice between acting out on your ego or listening and trusting the universe, because the universe was going to work for you. So if you took that action upon yourself, you've intervened with maybe what the universe wanted for you. So you might find it slightly harder through this process if you have acted on impulse and not with the alignment of the universe. But, you know, whatever happens is, part of the process. And maybe there's some learnings that need to be had for you in that time. So that's just like an overview of what that actually means. But whilst that's going on, the solar eclipse is in Aries. So fire sign, all about igniting, all about personal power, very masculine energy. So there'll be a lot of irrationalness in terms of thinking and action. There could be arguments that are had. There could be war and disruption, because it's very, very masculine energy led, especially because obviously the sun and the moon are both in Aries. And there's also other planets in Aries like Mars, Mercury. And actually saying that, Mars isn't in there, but Mercury and Venus are. So Mercury, obviously, planet of communication, Venus, the planet of love, the planet of finances. So you might be finding struggles in your romantic relationships as well as money. That's also all part of this process of what's happening right now. So as well as that, we currently have Mercury in retrograde. So there's so much rockiness happening right now, shaking up everything in your life. And also the fact that the solar eclipse is in Aries, and that's the lunar node, the north node currently, which is all about stepping into the version of yourself that you want to be. But we are conjunct with the south node. So it's all of who you were in the past. So like I keep saying, this is all the death and rebirth process. It's ending the old cycle so the new one can emerge. And the universe is asking you, what can you do differently this time round? And also, in these portals, we're not supposed to be manifesting. We're not supposed to be taking action ourselves. We're supposed to be trusting the process. So yeah, anything we do to kind of intervene that is making this a little bit more uncomfortable than it needs to be. And yeah, a lot of this, like I was speaking to a friend and they said to me that a lot of the wounds that are coming up now are wounds that we experienced in 2023 to 2025. So that's like, I mean, for me, I would have been early teens. And yeah, like think back to that time. What was happening in your life then? Like, was that, the first time or the second time you experienced abandonment or, overwhelm? For a friend of mine, it was for her, that was when she started to get into her first relationship. And so the wounds that she's feeling now around a new relationship are about, am I going to carry out these same patterns again? Are they going to serve me? Or, that fear of getting into something more with someone because it feels scary, all of that is tied into this space. So yeah, relationships are on the forefront, communication is on the forefront, and our minds and our thoughts, like, are our thoughts consuming us? And are we listening to our ego and not our higher self? Because this is a thing, like I always say, like fear is ego, doubt is ego, overwhelm is ego. There's so many layers to where our ego sits in our life. And if we're choosing to listen to that over the trust and surrender of the universe and the feeling, more than anything, we have to feel what we're going through. So if something feels uncomfortable, that is a red flag for you to go inwards and look at why. Like if you're just feeling those feelings and you're like abandon ship and jump off, you don't know why you're doing that, right? And actually you could leave yourself drowning because you've jumped off of your ship that actually was going to support you the whole time. So it's about, asking yourself, why am I feeling this way? Where is this interconnected to? Because as I've mentioned before and time again in my work, it's all about the deeper layers. So what you're feeling on the surface, what your immediate reaction is the secondary slash third layer of what the problem is and where it arises from. Because if we look at our inner world and our childhood experiences, that's where the root of the problem lies. And it could even be down to, with a client of mine, for example, she always had limiting beliefs, she'd always be either performing and having a lovely time, and then she'd be looking at herself, criticizing herself. She'd go back, watch the footage back, and be in her head about it. When we pulled it back, we were able to see that the thoughts that she had about herself wasn't from her. It was from a coach that she'd had, like a performing coach, when she was a young girl that actually mentally, physically abused her. So then those thoughts that she was hearing weren't the voices of herself, was the voice of someone else. And it comes down to, again, with even love, if there is a fear of something else, like as in progressing forward or, trusting someone, there is a fear in ourselves that something, we don't want to repeat the same pattern that we did before, or maybe we feel like we can't trust people or that people won't be there for us because we've always been let down. That's also part of this process and what could be coming up for the surface to you right now. So tread very, very lightly in this space. Don't act irrationally or out of turn or sync, because that's what's going to really throw you off of your pathway. But equally, if you do choose to do that, you'll always get back to where you're supposed to be. It'll just be a longer route. And maybe there's something that you needed to learn in that time. And actually, you not listening to the universe has gave you a greater lesson. And that's sometimes, part of our journey and our soul's experience, right? But I think what's important to understand again is the ego, where the ego sits in this experience, because this is all ego led. All of these changes that are being made, the resistance is your ego. Whereas if you can sit and look at this and say, right, take your hands off the wheel and just let the universe drive, that will get you to where you need to be quicker because there's no resistance. The minute we try to resist and change things, that's when it becomes more difficult for us. So yeah, I'll leave that at that. But within that, being said and in mind, a really important thing for me that's come to the surface in this time is self-worth and resilience. And they both tie in hand in hand. And I think for me, like having experienced something quite difficult recently, is that, super fresh as well. I just really know, full heart, hand on heart, that the universe always has my back. And I trust that so fully. And the reason I trust that even more so is because of the resilience I've built from, having to rebuild myself over and over again. But fundamentally, the baseline for me is always my self-worth. And I think that when you're in situations where you are challenged, you could sacrifice your happiness and yourself, or you could choose to not do that, not sacrifice your needs and wants, and to know where you sit and stand. I have a very good, I'd say even probably better than good, discerning level. I can understand when, for example, the kids that I teach, when they are not trying because they don't want to, and or when they physically can't do something. I have a very, very good, I'm so in tune with that. So for me, I actually can feel intent very, very well. So for me, that's where I'm at with in terms of, understanding myself. That's self-awareness. That's, understanding of the universe, the laws, astrology, all of these things that play a part in all of this. But, most importantly, I've done so much work on myself that I know fully that I am worth so much. So whatever tries to shake me or change me or break me just doesn't anymore. And I think it's because I value myself first and foremost. And I truly deserve to have the best of every situation, as do all of you. But the only way you get to that point of really truly believing you do deserve that is through going through some hard things. And I've been through so many hard things in my life that my resilience has been built. It's not something that's been given to me. It's not something that I've just picked up out of nowhere. Again, like my title, Inner Power Activation Leader, it's something that I've fallen into over and over again. And I've risen from the ashes of everything that's come my way. So now it's almost like whatever was set to burn me down didn't realize that I'm the fire. And I think that that's like a really important part of understanding who I am, is that my resilience is unwavering, and I'm saying this to say that if you're listening to this going for a really hard time right now, just know that everything is aligning you to where you're supposed to be. And if you have acted out of turn in this space, or, maybe said some things that you didn't want to say or acted irrationally, that really sit with the reason why you did that. Don't shame yourself for it. We all make mistakes and or we all act impulsively, but really sit in that space and understand, why did I do that? What made me do that? And how can I go about this differently in the future? Really unpick that and pull that apart. And also, you're allowed to get things wrong. So you're allowed to apologize for things and situations. But I think that also you've got to be honest and truthful and accountable. And I think that all comes with, when we make mistakes, we have to be accountable for the part that we play in it, but also understand that everything, comes to the surface for a reason. You're human. There was a reason that you acted that way at that time. It could be out of fear, and that's also valid. If you're scared about something, that's okay, but the key in all of that is vulnerability and being open enough to share that and come to that space, because even with building resilience, that is part of it. You can't just bulldoze your way through things. That's inauthentic. And that's where I sat for a really large part of my life. Where I'm at now is a very heart open space. I'm not trying to build walls up from who I am. I'm not trying to hide away from my emotions. I'm actually really sitting in them and understanding them and letting them process and come to the surface in order for them to be released. And I think that's a really powerful place to be in, is that I'm not hiding away from my humanness. I'm not trying to escape my reality or change my fate. What I'm doing is acknowledging that something is happening in my life right now that I have no control over. And another point on that is we never have control anyway, right? We never do. And this is the false sense of the ego that makes us believe we have control. And we'll try to create scenarios in our life to gain control. Like this is where like I said about the abandoning the ship, when you jump off board, it's like you try to gain control of that situation and now you're marooned in the middle of the ocean, swimming for dear life, pushing against the current because actually you chose to jump off the ship instead of just adjust the sails. And I think that that's something that is important. But equally, maybe someone can throw you a life raft, or maybe there is another ship that you needed to get on board and you had to get off in that time as well. But equally, it's going to be a hard swim to get there because, you abandoned what was an opportunity. But, again, coming back to that point, everything does happen for a reason. And even if you are made a choice that you didn't want to make, or you got into a situation or an argument that you didn't want to be in, the humbleness in that space is what's going to save us and what creates us and helps us become a better version of ourselves. I think, for me, being someone that's always been baseline aggressive in my life, that I had to have a lot of hard conversations where I looked at myself in the mirror and said, did I want to come across that way? Did I want to act out in that way and be that version of myself for people? Not really. I didn't want to be that way. So that's when I let my humility come in place and apologize. And I think we all have the space and the capability to do that. And I think that there's no right or wrong in how we do something, apart from if it affects other people's thoughts and feelings and emotions. I think that's where there's a line between what's right and wrong when we're hurting other people. But equally, we only get one life, so we have to do what's right for us. But with the ever-changing, evolving astrology right now, it is not a good time to make brash decisions. Like, that is one of the fundamental things, especially in the Mercury retrograde, because we are in the most shadowy period we'll probably have this year. Like, absolutely all of the wounds are coming to the surface. All of the ego is just bringing up old rubbish from the past. You might have exes get back in touch with you. You might have just lots of situations happen that aren't for your highest good, and how you navigate your way through that will dictate what the rest of your life looks like from this point, especially, well, until the next eclipse portal for sure. So this is happening now. We will have another eclipse in sort of October time as well, that will round up the lessons that we learned from this part. So ultimately, surrendering is the most important thing in this time, but equally building that resilience. And the way you build the resilience is, like I said, you do take accountability for your part that you play in a situation. You do, apologize if you need to, or take ownership if you need to. And equally, you keep coming back to the space of the reasons why you do things. Why do you feel the need to act a certain way, or what do you think root level is been echoing in you for that to be the outcome of the situation. So I think it's always worth looking at those parts first. And ultimately, that level of self-worth that I have, like I said, has come from that resilience, come from building myself back up over and over again. It hasn't been easy at any part, but it's been worth it, because I think to be able to get out of situations that feel hard quicker than I've ever done before, from a place of real understanding, and not of trying to hide something away or sweep it under the carpet, but from looking at something face on and saying, okay, I can see where this and this made sense. I can see where that makes sense. I can take accountability for some of the parts that I play if I feel like I've played it, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can look at something and be like, you know what, that was completely out of my hands, and that's just the way the universe wanted it to be. And actually, that's all part of living. I think that there's ups and downs, there's highs and lows through every situation, and the more we can accept that, the easier life becomes. Because again, I was someone that was really trying to control every outcome in my life, down to the way people reacted to me and saw me, down to, wanting to be seen, heard, and understood. There's no part of me now in my life that wants to do that for myself. And I fully surrender into the universe's guidance and the flow of my life, because there is a pathway here for me where I don't have to swim against the current, and I can just let myself float into where I need to be. And that feels lovely and exciting, because in that river and that stream is everything that I want. And I'm excited for that as it unfolds. And even more so now with these shifts happening with the eclipse, I can really feel massive openings happening for me. And if you can't feel that right now, that's a sign that you need to do the work. So really have a look at yourself inwardly. These last few days have been super rocky, and probably even the last few weeks have been rocky. The eclipse portal that's happening on Monday the 8th is going to open up a new doorway for you. How you choose to maneuver through that doorway will dictate where you go next. But fundamentally, you have to surrender in that process, because the universe is moving you. The universe is moving you. You don't have to do anything but trust the process. And I think in this time, really spend time journaling, get clear on your intention, clear on the reasons why, get clear on what it is that you want, and just trust the universe is guiding you there, because massive shifts are happening and it's really expansive and exciting. So yeah, I just really feel for myself more than anything that this is a really exciting space to be in. I feel like I've worked hard, consistently. I'm always doing the work. I'm always meditating, journaling, and doing the things that I tell you all to do every single day, like really, really dedicated to bettering myself and moving forwards in just the most incredible way. And that's why I can hand on heart say that, my resilience and my self-worth are unwavering as a result of me being so dedicated and determined to who I have come here to be. And I wish that for you too, so I hope that, if anything has been hard recently for you, my DMs are always open on social media if you want to have a conversation. And also, my journal is available on my website. So if you're feeling like actually there's some things I do need to look at and process, the journal's on there. I also have some worksheets available that you can just download instead of waiting for the journal to arrive in the post. So there's lots of different ways that I can support you without supporting you hand on. But obviously, if you are looking for some real guidance at this time, like, please do reach out to me, because it is rocky, and it's rocky for a reason, because what no longer serves us needs to go. And as well as that, I don't know if I mentioned Chiron's the wounded healer. They're playing a massive part of this eclipse portal. So yeah, it's all about death and rebirth right now. It's not comfortable, it's not fun, but it will be on the other side of this. And we just have to, buckle up and enjoy the ride, because that's exactly what it is. It's a roller coaster, and the universe will always guide you to where you're supposed to be if you trust, believe, and know that that's possible for you. And it is, because, life is supposed to be filled with, like I said, the highs and lows, because if it was always one level, if it was always happy and exciting, you wouldn't appreciate it. So that's why we need the lows and the rockiness. And also trust the shedding of these chapters, trust the shedding of old versions of yourself. And more than anything, I pray that you don't abandon who you are, because that's really the baseline level. You are really and truly worthy of love. You are worthy of success, and you are worthy of fulfillment and to live in your purpose. Absolutely. And you have to trust and believe that. But don't let the ego get in your way. Don't let the ego tell you can't have those things, or that it's not good enough for you, or it doesn't feel right. Like, trust me, if you've always had bad or uncomfortable situations and circumstances, that's what feels safe to you. And actually, you could jeopardize some really incredible moments happening in your life because it doesn't feel comfortable, because it's not what you're used to. So really sit with that feeling and that emotion and understand that for you, because you know yourself more than anyone else if you dive in. If you don't dive in, you're a stranger to yourself. And that's another thing, especially with all the chapters and everything that we're going through and forward in our lives. You have to know you so much right now, because if you don't, that's why it feels so hard. I'm sending you so much love and light this time. As I said, do drop me a message if you are going through some stuff right now, and know that I'm here to support and guide you through all of it. Sending you so much love and light, and I will see you next time. If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow, and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.